Now, first off the bat, let's go straight to my waiting guest, the excellent independent MP for Great Yarmouth and also leader of the Restore Britain movement, Rupert Lowe. Good morning, Rupert.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well, and I think both you and I should be in a fairly jubilant mood this morning because that was a stunning victory by Epping Forest District Council over what I would say are the forces of the government and the forces of wrong. The barrister's argument, as I was just quoting in my monologue, the barrister's argument for why the people of Epping should be ignored and the Bell Hotel should continue to house hundreds of migrants, asylum seekers, two of whom have been charged with sexual assault, by the way, was extraordinary. It basically said that the government's sacred duty to the human rights of asylum seekers is more important than the rights of British people to safety on their streets, to have some kind of say in their own neighbourhood. He also said that if you rule, he warned the High Court judge, if you rule in favour of Epping, it will encourage further violent protests by communities who fancy their chances of getting rid of their asylum seeker hotels. Well, what violent protests? There haven't been any. Yes, they've been passionate, they've been heated, but not really violent. You know what's going on here, Rupert. Keir Starmer wants to revert, as I said again, to his default setting of calling decent, honest, worried British citizens far-right thugs. Well, he can't do that because they're not far-right thugs and they haven't been violent. The argument by the government's barrister in court yesterday was a national disgrace, if you ask me.
Well, Kevin, first of all, let me say how well you do your monologue. You do it very well indeed.
Thank you.
I enjoyed listening to it this morning. Secondly, let's call these people what they are, which is illegal migrants. Let's call them what they are, not asylum seekers. They're illegal migrants, the majority of them, fighting-age young men. And I want to give credit really to the people of Epping Forest who, as you say, stood up quite correctly in the interests of their local community, and peacefully they have put pressure, brought pressure to bear, and their council has, to its credit, now brought this case and they've won the first leg of it, and let's hope they continue to win. Common sense, if our judiciary was doing its job, should be that the interests and the, if you like, well-being of the British tax-paying public should be at the top of the agenda here. I've always said the job of the council is to look after its constituents. The job of the government is to look after its electorate. As you say, I think I have no faith in the A-team of Yvette Cooper and Angela Eagle protecting our borders, Kevin. I mean, you couldn't make it up. But if with the will, with digital technology, and there are many nascent British companies that could provide that technology, we could help give our IT sector a huge boost. We could protect our borders. We're very fortunate to have the channel, which has always provided us with protection and continues to do so if we choose to use it. But for various reasons which are better known to them, they seem to think it's okay to allow these illegal migrants to come in here, to then expect the British taxpayer to pay for their new phones, healthcare, education, dental treatment, food, spending money, whatever else we give them. And at the same time, plant them without any discussion or consultation in the middle of honest, decent, tax-paying communities who value the protection of their children, their women, and everything that they hold dear. So I'm hoping this will be the trigger for other councils now to take the lead from Epping Forest and to start fighting for their constituents and doing what they should be doing, and that's protecting the interests of those people who've helped build this country into what it is, who pay their taxes, who live in a law-abiding way, and don't expect to be put upon by people who don't share our culture, and very often, as you say, do things in terms of, and it's proven, crime rates go up. We see all sorts of cultural oil and water not mixing. So I think it's great news, and what we've got to do is hope that this, if you like, starts
like a chain reaction. I hope it does.
Yes.
Can you bear with us for a second, Rupert? I'm going to play what the Security Minister Dan Jarvis said on the BBC's Today programme this morning. See if you can make any sense of it.
Could you at least answer just so specifically, if it's not hotels, as Security Minister, what is it?
So for reasons that I completely understand, you're focusing on one particular bit of this problem, and I'm evidencing the activity right across the sort of the spectrum of the challenge in terms of the leveraging diplomatic relations with our partners internationally and stopping the flow of people getting to the northern beaches of France in the first place, which is my primary area of concern.
That's his primary area of concern. I would have thought that, as you said, Rupert, soaring crime rates around the country, hundreds of these asylum seekers charged with serious offences, many of them sexual. I would have thought that should be the government's primary concern. Never mind about them getting to the northern French beaches, which I admit is a problem. How about stopping them leaving the northern French beaches? How about stopping the boats coming? This is a government sort of using deflective language to get around the fact that they are not tackling the migrant crisis at all. The one in, one out scheme so far has added up to about 2,500 in, none out. That is not working. Nothing else is working.
One in, one out scheme is a bit like us lobbying $500 million at France every year and them helping migrants over here, which is what's happening.
Exactly.
So, I mean, when are we going to be led by people who actually know which way is up and are able to negotiate in a way which protects and benefits the British people, not damages their interests? So these people have travelled across multiple safe countries, and if you listen to Macron the other day, he actually told us what the answer is. Stop making them think there's a pot of gold when they land in Dover.
Yeah.
So ultimately, Kevin, it's not rocket science, and I've told people the solution, and people say, well, what are we going to do with them if they have to leave the hotels? Very simple: detain, take them to an offshore island, and give them a tent and some porridge, and when they're ready to go home, facilitate them going home. Yeah. But do not damage the fabric of Britain by settling these people who are not welcome here across this country, and without any consultation with the people who already live there. We're already overcrowded. We're suffering huge amounts of taxation. We're expected to pay more, and you probably hear these Machiavellian plots about wealth taxes and property taxes and everything else. That's quite a simple solution too. Cut the size of the state, stop state waste, cut the number of state employees, and start to act as referee, not player, which is what the state should be doing. Look, it's very straightforward, and it's time for our electorate to stand up. They need to now fight. We can feel our country, Kevin, slipping through our fingers.
Yeah, I'm not exaggerating, Rupert, when I said in my monologue. This comes across. People might say, "Oh, you're taking a very sensationalist angle here," but this feels to me, when we look into the rancid soul of this government, as depicted by this Edward Brown, the Home Office's barrister.
I'd rather not, Kevin.
Yeah, but if we look into their rancid soul, this is a government that is obsessed with the human rights of these people who break into our country, and it sees that as a priority of the rights of people who live in this country, British citizens. In other words, I think this is a government at war with its own people, and I hope the people win. I think yesterday's verdict may be the beginning of a national victory over a government that cares more about illegal foreigners than it does its own citizens.
It's so illogical, Kevin, that I'm forced to conclude that it's effectively part of a Machiavellian plan to punish the 17.4 million members of the British electorate who voted to, shock horror, leave the protectionist post-war socialist European Union. And I think, again, as you know, our majority of our ministers, the majority of our civil service, the majority of the people don't share the same view as the electorate, who is supposed to be their boss. And I do think this is a kind of retribution through the back door, rather like devolution was, to try and break Britain up into regions, or break England up into regions, if you like, and effectively promote the Scottish flag, promote the Welsh flag, and denigrate the St George's Cross, which is why I'm so keen that we do start to fly the St George's Cross. I'm going to buy a flagpole and start flying one from the end of my drive. I think it's time.
Good man.
Time for the English to be patriotic now in a peaceful way, and to show that we are ultimately the economic engine of these islands. We have always in the past embraced the Act of Union. But quite frankly, Kevin, I think devolution has been designed to damage the interests of our islands. We need to reverse it. We need to effectively get rid of the waste in Scotland. You probably saw the latest economic figures from Scotland, showing that their GDP is now 55% is the state. Their deficit per household is now nearly £45,000 per annum. They are basically relying entirely on the English taxpayer, not just through the Barnett formula, but they are not creditworthy without being part of the Union. The same with Wales, and yet the English are put upon, we're taxed into oblivion. The economic engine of this country is basically that triangle between Manchester, Birmingham and Leeds, where you've got 30 million people who basically are enterprising and run real businesses. Now, you know, obviously we've had our financial markets, which Tony Blair and his merry band have done their very best to destroy through over-regulation via the Financial Services Market Act. But at the end of the day, we need some serious changes in the way in which this country is thought through and governed. And the British people have got to wake up, because if we don't get that change by 29, we're going to have a big problem. So I urge everybody, join Restore Britain right now, and we can start to make a difference.
And I hope, Rupert, you will restore pride in our national flag, the Union Jack, and here in England, the St George's Cross. There's
both the Union Jack and the St George's Cross.
Yeah, exactly. There's a joke going around at the moment that if you want to get the potholes that infest your borough repaired, go and paint a St George's Cross on them, because then the council will be down on it like a ton of bricks and get rid of it. I mean, we're laughing about it, but this is happening on some of those painted white roundabouts. Patriots have painted red crosses on them to make them look like the St George's flag, and the council are there almost within seconds to get rid of the red cross. Now, you know what it's like trying to get councils to do anything, like things like, I don't know, collect the bins regularly. No chance. But you paint a St George's Cross somewhere and they are there to get rid of it ASAP, as soon as they can. These councils are fostering this weird shame that they seem to feel in our own patriotic flag.
I think, Kevin, the EU and the people who basically played this original part, we won't go into the history of it now, the European coal and steel community from then onwards, the Marshall Plan, all that sort of stuff. But I think they're frightened of English nationalism. And what they try and always do is to hold English nationalism down and turn it into a dirty word. Well, I actually think it's time for the English to be proud of who they are, to be proud of their history, to remember the things that we've done. You know, we're criticised for our empire, but if people want to criticise the British Empire, I suggest they have a very good look at the Belgian Empire, or they have a very good look at the French Empire, because if they want to start attacking people for bad behaviour, start there. Do not start with the British Empire, which on the whole was benevolent and has provided some extremely good structures for places like India, to improve the average standard of living for the majority of their people. So no, I think the whole thing has gone badly wrong. We're led by people who mainly don't know their history. They are not interested in their history. They'd rather forget about it. And I want to see a return to some form of logic, fairness, common sense. And I want this country to return to what it can be. It's got the best people. We've got a fantastic structure everywhere, and what we need to do is ensure that we do common sense things that benefit the people who live here and who have built this country into what it is. Simple as that.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you something. It's a throwback to what happened on Friday, but I'd be very interested to get your take on it, because one of the other great scourges of what's going wrong in this country is obviously two-tier justice, two-tier policing. We saw on Friday the extraordinary acquittal of the Labour councillor, the London Labour councillor, Ricky Jones, who was filmed, caught on camera in an anti-racism demonstration, which were a kind of counterpoint to the riots that were going on, or the protests that were going on all over the country in the wake of Southport. So there's this counter demonstration, anti-racism. He's there, filmed, caught on camera, shouting, these far right, so-and-sos, we need to cut their throats, we need to get out there, they don't deserve to live, and so on and so forth. He was charged with the rather mild offence of encouraging others to offend. He could have been charged quite very justifiably with inciting violence, which was what Lucy Connolly, the keyboard warrior, was charged with, and indeed pleaded guilty to and got 2 years and 7 months. This guy called for people to be killed. Doesn't matter if they were right wing or not.
He even drew his finger across his throat.
Yeah, exactly right. And he was found not guilty. That is an egregious example of two-tier justice. In other words, Lucy Connolly, a housewife 200 miles from the Southport trouble, writes something, not particularly well advised on Twitter, a few hurty words. She gets 2 years and 7 months because she's perceived to be right-wing, right of centre. In this country now, it seems to be an offence to be right-wing, but if you're left-wing, you can literally get away with calling for murder. Extraordinary.
I don't think Lucy Connolly was either right-wing or left-wing. I think she was just a concerned mother after the Southport catastrophe. And again, she deleted the tweet. What she said was ill-advised. But yes, Kevin, I don't think she's right-wing. I think she's just a concerned citizen. And she expressed that arguably in too strong a way, which I think had she pleaded not guilty and had she had better legal advice and not relied on legal aid, she probably would never have gone to prison. But that shows you the deficiencies of the system. With regard to Ricky Jones, no, I mean, I've been at first hand, I've seen the way in which this police, non-crime hate incident nonsense works. I think, I had to attend an interview at Hammersmith Police Station. I've never been in a police station in my life. I've got a completely clean record after 67 years of paying my taxes and living honestly. But there were 2 palpably false witness statements made against me. Absolute. I can't get a copy of them. Police won't give them to me. They should, because you're supposed to be told what you're accused of. I've seen at first hand how these things operate. Indeed, I've had some death threats, and the police have told me there isn't enough evidence to investigate them. So I've written back to them to say, well, please explain to me why, when somebody makes a tweet, in order to get a Twitter account, they have to have a name and they have to have either an email address or a phone number.
Rupert, I've got to advise Rupert, get back in touch with the police and tell them that you've become a communist. Then they'll chase the person who threatened to kill you.
No, but there's no doubt there's a two-tier policing structure. There's no doubt that I think decency and fairness are being penalised, and in many ways, it feels to me that we are protecting and promoting the wrong people within our society. We're not punishing the people who are damaging our interests. We're almost promoting them. And crimes go unreported in my constituency. We are told that crime's down, it's not down. People just aren't bothering to report it. And I'm actually encouraging all my shop owners to actually report shoplifting, because, again, this nonsense the other day, you probably saw it, where some shopkeeper put up a sign calling
scumbags,
shoplifters scumbags. Well, they are scumbags. Yeah. They're total scumbags, and he's quite right to call them that. And, if people go shoplifting, they should be prosecuted. Well, we should be protecting honest, decent businesses in the same way that a lot of these illegal migrants are going off and working for Deliveroo and working for other shadow economic operations, which then in itself undermines those people who are living honestly and paying their taxes honestly. Yeah. So when are we going to get real and start protecting those people who make a contribution to our society, who take risk, who generate wealth, who pay people. And it really irritates me also when the government goes on about how we're not going to tax working people. Yeah. Well, working people, Kevin, are a function of people who employ them. Everybody's in it together. You know, our businesses are family businesses. Yeah. It's not, there's no difference between the two.
Yeah.
And they just don't seem to get it. We're not all part of this unproductive, parasitic state, which basically sucks the blood out of all of us, over-regulates us, and basically damages our economic well-being.
I'll tell you what, Rupert, I know you're a busy man, but I would encourage you to try to listen to the later bit of my show, because later on, this will knock your socks off. Later on, we're going to be interviewing a lady, a disabled lady. She's 57 years old. She lives in Blackpool, and she got sick and tired of people shoplifting from her local grocery store, saw this guy who she'd seen stealing 3 bottles of wine in that same day, and tried to stop him. Said, stop doing this. When he came for her, she sort of lifted up her crutch to kind of avoid his attack. Of course, subsequent to this event, the police have informed her that she may face charges of assault, attacking a shoplifter with...
Well, you'll approve, Kevin, you'll approve of Restore Britain, one of our putative policies, and we're just finalising and perfecting our Direct Democracy app, which our members will be able to give their view on our policy we're going to push forward in September. But one of our putative policies is an Englishman's home is his castle. And I honestly, my view is, and it always used to be this way, that if somebody breaks into your house and threatens you, your property, your family, then ultimately what happens to them is their problem. It should not be the problem of the householder. And until we get back to some sort of bedrock of common sense like that, that's going to be one of our policies, and I'm very strong on that. Good. I don't want to get to the American stage where you knock on the front door and somebody shoots you through the front door, but I do want to see people being able to
protect their own property, stick up for their own rights, absolutely,
in whatever way they see fit, and they should be immune from any form of prosecution.
Absolutely, Rupert. Rupert, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. That's Rupert Lowe, MP for Great Yarmouth, independent MP, former Reform, of course. When he was talking about having to go to Hammersmith Police Station, I think these were to do with allegations made against him by the Reform Party, which he was no longer a member of by then, allegations that seem to have dissolved away. Nothing has happened.